Well, perhaps I might just launch this first annual report of Carmel Impact Limited, and thank you all for joining, and welcome you all very much to this significant occasion in which we can really celebrate the work that this newly established company has been able to achieve in the past year, building on the work that precedes it by the Carmelites in the previous 20 years, really, since the Carmelites first in Australia became involved and assumed responsibility for the development of the order and its works in Timor-Leste back in 2001. And this formation of this company is really just a way of formalising and organising the support that has been so generously given to us by many of you and others over those 20 years. And I think it's appropriate just to reflect for a moment on some of those significant people who have been very much involved in the development of the work that Carmel Impact now supports, and which has been previously supported directly by the Carmelites through the provincial office. We had a coordinator back in the early days, Sister Rosemary Patterson, who made a lot of connections and enabled a lot of support to be given to the school in Zumalai, which Brother Antonio is responsible for, and for the scholarship program that assists young people with their education, that Brother Antonio and Father Bruce, who's the novice master and the prior of the student community in Hera, just outside Dili. They've been responsible for that. And the late Brother Sean Keith, who was chaplain at Whitefriars College, sadly died early this year. He was also very instrumental in supporting the various programs which the brothers and those who worked with them got involved with and got established in Timor-Leste. And he got a lot of support from the students, staff and parents of Whitefriars College, and also from his many friends and connections in the United States, who also made significant contributions to the work that the Carmelites have been doing, and that's now formalised in Carmel Impact in terms of supporting the 3 schools in the Zumalai, the boarding house for students there in Zumalai, which Brother Antonio is also responsible for, the scholarship program, which I've already referred to, and also the various youth programs that help build leadership in Timor-Leste. And there's been a lot of support over the years from people like yourselves, some of them organised in groups in our parishes, particularly in Coorparoo and in Wentworthville, and there's also been parishioner support, significant from Middle Park and Port Melbourne Parish. Lay Carmelites have been involved. Some of the lay Carmelites have been up to Timor-Leste and supported the development of the library and the student house up there. Again, Whitefriars College, our students there have been involved in immersion programs, and that has facilitated the sort of interest in Timor-Leste and the support that the students have given primarily through a walkathon, which Brother Sean was the driver of and the organiser of for many years. So we sort of stand on all that history really in coming to formalise this company, Carmel Impact, and we sort of made a significant step forward in our organisation of our support and our fundraising for Timor-Leste when Mayra, who's our main panellist today, when she was appointed the Community Development Ministry Coordinator in 2008. And we looked to establishing a vehicle of support whereby people could have the benefit of tax deductibility if they wanted to. And it took a lot of work on behalf of our fundraising director, Nancy Mercurio, Mayra herself, Damien Cairns, our business manager, and with legal assistance from Libby Klein to get this company, Carmel Impact Limited, formally established. And that happened in 2019 with the recognition by the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Corporation of Carmel Impact, and the constitution of Carmel Impact was established and confirmed, and it sort of really is the guiding document, and it states very clearly that the principal purpose of Carmel Impact Limited is to provide benevolent relief to people in need, consistent with the Carmelite value of service. And this company exercises that responsibility through those various educational projects that I've referred to: schools, the boarding house, the scholarships, and then the leadership capacity building exercises among young people that are all supported through Carmel Impact, and that's gets to supporting it through your donations and your support, material and spiritual as well. So Carmel Impact then, as the vehicle by which the Carmelites support the works, the development works in Timor, was formally established in 2019, but began operating in 2020, and hence this is the first annual report which we're very pleased to present to you, and which I'll now invite Mayra to introduce to us.
Thanks very much, Paul, and welcome everybody. It's great to be able to present this report to you today. Having said that, because this is a webinar, I'm not going to present the actual report. It will be made available on the website and via email as a PDF document after this webinar has finished. So today what I'm going to do is run through some of the information that you'll find in the report, which is a summary of the program activities in 2020. And then I'd also like to finish up maybe talking a little bit about the current situation in Timor, because I know that there will be some questions and interest around what's happening with the two major issues, COVID-19 outbreak and the recent flooding in Dili. So I'm going to share my screen now, and let's see. I hope that has worked and you can all now see the Carmel Impact logo there.
It's looking good, Mayra.
Thanks. So first of all, I just thought I'd give you a brief overview of the sort of key governance for Carmel Impact, which Paul has covered a little bit. But I wanted to clarify that the members of the board for Carmel Impact, some of whom are here today with us, include Father Dennis, Father Hugh Brown, Father Bruce Clark, who's based in Timor, Father Martino, and Paul himself. So these board members are responsible for the charity just like any board, and meet quarterly to look at how the program is running. And thanks so much for all of your work and support for the activities that have been running so far. In 2020, like many organisations, the charity did have an impact from the COVID-19. Fundraising was slightly reduced because people and community groups weren't able to run their usual activities. but the charity did have an income of $271,000 from fundraising and grants and bequests. Of that, even more was spent on projects, $292,000 on projects, and not included in that number is an additional amount of money that was spent on running the charity. So we are very grateful to the Carmelite Fathers, the province of Australia and Timor-Leste, who have been supporting the initial establishment of this charity, because they've been covering some of the deficit costs, because at the moment our fundraising income is not quite covering our program activities. But over the years, we hope that that will slowly change and the charity will be able to stand more independently. COVID-19 had a huge impact on Carmel Impact's programs in 2020. I think every single activity was impacted in some way. However, I'm happy to report that in Timor-Leste generally, there was not a major outbreak of COVID-19 in the country over 2020. The government responded very strongly, and they were able to stop COVID-19 coming in through the land border with West Timor or the airport. Having said that, there was a 3-month lockdown, and then a lot of other consequences from that had impacts. So we responded quite quickly. Carmel Impact was able to transfer some funding from other areas to provide initial relief, particularly around preparing COVID-safe hygiene programs in Timor, providing support during the lockdown, as well as trying to help people make some long-term preparations, because of course at the beginning of 2020 we didn't know how bad it might get in Timor over that year. Some of the numbers I can give you around that support was over 800 masks were sewn, and you can see here some of the boarding house students in Zumalai were helping to sew those masks. 9 new tap stands were set up at 3 schools in Zumalai, giving over 500 students better access to water. Also, there was hygiene packs handed out to over 40 teachers, and soap was made available, and new protocols were set up through Catholic schools in Zumalai to deal with the pandemic response. In addition, there were a lot of staff who work for Carmelite communities in Timor received additional support for their extended families to help them get through the lockdown. Over 40 families in communities received food parcels. Here you can see some of the students in Zumalai who all had to start wearing masks to school. And these are again some of the masks that the Carmelite brothers were able to make and hand out. And then the Carmelite brothers also worked together with Carmelite sisters in both Zumalai and Hera, sharing funding in terms of being able to buy material and make more masks and distribute them further. And there's a photo of one of the students washing their hands. All students, once they went back to school after the lockdown, had to start a new protocol of washing their hands before school, before entering the classroom, during lunchtime breaks, which was really great to see. And we were able to move quite quickly to set that up to make sure that all the students and staff were protected at the schools over there. COVID-19 continued to then impact a lot of the other programs, so it'll probably come up again as I keep speaking, but we did have a sort of focused emergency relief response, which is covered in the annual report. So the Zumalai boarding house is another project that we support in Timor. In 2020, there were 23 students living at the boarding house, and they're from primary school up to year 9. So there were 2 students at primary school and 21 students from year 7, 8 and 9. And all those students attend the local Our Lady of Mount Carmel school that is situated right next to the boarding house. Carmel Impact supports 3 schools in Zumalai sub-district. Those schools have one school principal, who's Brother Antonio, who is here with us today in this webinar. In 2020, some of the planned funding for the schools was redirected into COVID-19 response. So the program for the schools was slightly reduced, but we were able to continue supporting 19 volunteer teachers who teach across the Zumalai and Waimea schools, a whole range of subjects. We provide a monthly subsidy payment to support them because they support us. It's mutually beneficial. And we also were able to send over a whole range of sports equipment because a big part of our support for the school is providing relevant teaching resources to have the teachers able to access a larger range of education materials, some of which are not available in Timor. So that's one of the ways we support the school to improve the quality of education. There's Brother Antonio, the school principal, with some of the staff in the staff room. And one of the 19 volunteer teachers at the Waimea campus who's sitting at her desk in the staff room filling out one of the attendance sheets. Just like at our schools in Australia, they have to record all the students' attendance every day. So we now have 2 scholarship programs as part of Carmel Impact's programs in Timor. The first is called La Bruna Scholarships, and these scholarships are provided to Carmelite students who are studying non-religious studies. So they're offered to Bachelor of Philosophy students, most of which study in Timor, and then also students who might come to Australia to study perhaps a master's degree. For example, Ajedo, who's currently doing a master's in teaching degree in Melbourne. And then sometimes we have students come to Australia to do English for academic purposes studies. So they can also be supported through these La Bruna scholarships. In 2020, we had 29 students, 28 studying Bachelor of Philosophy degrees and 1 studying a master's degree in Melbourne. And these photos show some of the extracurricular activities these students do. So the program doesn't just cover their school fees and living costs, it also supports those students to do pastoral work experience, for example, going to rural villages where they might do volunteer work with a local community. So it's quite a comprehensive program. The second area of scholarships are community scholarships. And these scholarships are for young people from a range of backgrounds throughout Timor. They can be offered for high school study, for university or vocational training. In 2020, we had 27 young people receiving community scholarships, 12 young women and 15 young men, and they were studying a range of university degrees as well as high school and vocational training. This photo here is one of the students who graduated with a bachelor degree with Father Bruce, celebrating his graduation. And I also have some photos here of Renya, who is a Bachelor of Public Health student in Delhi. And as with many of all of the students, both the La Bruna Scholarship students and the community scholarship students, they had to do extended periods of online learning during lockdowns in 2020 and had to get quite creative about how to manage that because it was obviously challenging with internet access to technology, laptops and tablets. And one of the things that many of the community scholarship students did during that time was return home to their villages. Renya, for example, went home to where her parents live up in the mountains, And during that time, because she's studying a Bachelor of Public Health, she did some volunteer work at her local health centre and received extra training in COVID-19 protocols, in doing and supporting the other nursing doctors and midwifery staff who work at that local health centre. So she really took the opportunity to get some hands-on practical experience. And then once the lockdown was over and people were able to return to Dili, she was able to continue her public health degree in Timor. So that's just one example of the many students who were supported through that scholarship program. The last program that I want to tell you a little bit about is the Youth Engagement Program. This is actually one of the smallest programs in terms of budget allocation, but it has a really big impact. It's a fantastic program because it's really community-led and youth-led. So it's run in Zumalai, although we are looking to expand it to Hera as well this year. In 2020, there was nearly 500 young people who participated in this. It's a sports and culture program. One of the key leaders is a former community scholarships recipient, and there's an organising committee that comes together made up of local volunteers. Some of the young men in this photo are part of that organising committee, and they organise sports programs in the months of sort of October, November and December. And there's a really high level of community engagement. There's 8 villages in Zumalai sub-district, and every single village has a sports group who participate. People spend a lot of time organising their uniforms. You can see this team has even put together a flag, named their sort of small club. They train. And then there's over the tournament, there's a lot of support for the teams. It's an important program because there's been a history of youth violence in Zumalai. So this is a way to engage with young people, provide activities for them, and also promote social connection and well-being. So yeah, nearly 500 people were included in that program in 2020, and we hope to see it expand further this year, COVID permitting, of course. Now, at the moment, there are 2 major things happening in Timor, both of which affect our programs and have slightly changed our programs this year. So I'm going to finish that sort of section of my presentation, which is talking about Carmel Impact's work in 2020, and just spend a little bit of time looking at the situation currently in Timor. I'd like to invite Father Esposto to join us on the panel. Yes. Welcome to the webinar.
Welcome, Esposto.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to just ask Esposto a few questions to have a little bit of information sharing about the situation now in Timor. But while I do that, I'd like to invite all of the attendees, if you have a question that you'd like to ask me, Father Paul, or Father Esposto about any of Carmel Impact's programs in Timor, both 2020 programs as well as what's happening now, please start thinking about your questions. You can click on the raise hand icon, and when it comes to the right time, Belinda will facilitate so that you can join us and ask a question. So Father Esposto, I know that Dili has recently come out of a lockdown. There's been a big COVID-19 outbreak. How are things looking now? Are things getting back to normal, or are people still being very careful? What's the situation around the streets?
We have 3 types of like emergency here in Timor. we call SS Cerca scenario. So everyone is those who are living in Dili, so it has to be remain. If they want to go to their own, to go to their community where they come from, they have to have a legal authorization from the government, and they have to go through a swab test. But just recently, the government has released we call the confinamento obligatorio. It's the ask everyone to has to remain home, only come to a center of Delhi for just emergency for basic needs. But this has released a few days ago. And then now in Delhi, like it's look like quite crowded now, but we're still waiting for maybe next month or next 2 weeks what the government is going to apply, and they also doing the survey. Maybe this week, within this week, they are be going to do swab test, muscle swab test for
great.
everyone in Delhi.
Okay.
That's one of the approach they were going to, how to see its decrease or increase the number of the cases. So it's will going to happen, and now the government is in to have a vaccine. So like we are here in the community with Fausto has done it twice, and the other brothers and myself, we have done the first round, and maybe by next week or next month we'll be going to go for second round. So when the people who already got the second round has completed the vaccine, they will have a free to go to the mountain or for like, is it for free? Yeah.
Okay. So there's several things you've mentioned there. I'm just going to summarize that a little bit. So there was a stay-at-home order in Dili, which has now been lifted. Yeah. So people are now able to leave their homes. Yeah. There's going to be mass COVID testing next week. So some of the COVID numbers, I think Dili has been recording around 50 positive cases a day, but the testing has not been widespread, excuse me. So that's great to hear that they're going to be doing some mass testing and that the vaccine program is continuing to roll out. Fantastic. Father Esposto, can you please tell us a little bit about Carmel Impact and the Carmelite Brothers' response to the floods in Hera, and also Dili? And I think once you've talked a little bit about that, we'll take some questions.
About flood victim response or emergency response, what we have been doing here in Hera, let me introduce what we have been doing here in Hera and in Dili, also Zumalai. We have 5 types of projects that we have been doing. So we build 3 tanks of water, 3 water tanks, and also supporting the foods for the victims, and also reconstruct the road from the Dominican sister side to our community. And another project is 23 houses will be covered by next week, and 50 transport. So the transport is using our transports, as you know, we have discussed it. So it is the main 4 types of projects that we have been doing we have been doing here in Hera and in Fatuhada. So mainly here in Hera, for the 3 water tanks. So we have finalized 2 of them, and another one will be maybe in these 2 days will be finished. And then by next week, we'll be doing the installation for the water. So we're ready for the polypipe already ready here. So by next week, we'll be do installation for the water for the community in Susan. And we haven't, we already done the food response to those who are badly impacted by the flood. That is already we provided them basic needs like rice and oil and salt. But before that, we have given them some like the clothes and the shoes and the sandals, also bedding, also provide some like bed for for the family. And also now we are working together with the CIC congregation, also Salesian. They just recently they came, and then also they provide some food and the basic. So we are the main one responsible, like taking those people who are coming for provide for victims.
Fantastic, thanks.
And the third one, and the third one is we have been doing a lot, as you noticed in to you, and we're doing reconstruct the road. It is started from the Dominican, as we have sent you some pictures today. And by next month, hopefully we will be finishing the 2 main Carmel Impact is part of Carmel Impact projects that we have been doing. So hopefully by the middle of July, we will be doing construct 23 houses for the flood victims.
Okay.
Okay, then, Mayra, it might be time to wrap up then. And thank you for your presentation. I think that was very informative, and Exposto for giving us the view from the ground up there in Timor-Leste, and the great work that he and other brothers have been doing in terms of assisting with flood relief. Since we've started, I noticed that Abigail Magtanong and Neil Crossan was with us for a while. Keith Belton has joined us, and Father Januario from Wentworth Hills also joined in. So it's great to have you with us too, along with everyone else. So thank you very much for joining in this presentation of the Carmel Impact Annual Report, and we look forward to our ongoing association. So thank you, and all the best.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
You can look out for the report in the emails and on the Carmelite website.